Hello PlayMaker folks, this is Tim Grutman. I wanted to show you how we got our boss battles to work using PlayMaker. Alright, so my scene has two PlayMaker state machines. There's one on the good guy, one on the bad guy. Let's see. The bad guy. There we go. Alright, so this is the bad guy, and this is the good guy. The good guy is pretty straightforward. I'll show you him now. There we go. Alright. So here we have gravity, and there's certain zones. So I have like a G3. Okay, so killed me. Okay, so we have various zones which are set up with triggers here. So you can see with the gizmos here that there's this big volume down here. So there's zones for the gravity guy, and there's zones for the boss guy. So for gravity, he's got these. The big zone here, a zone over here, and a zone over here. And with the state machine, I wanted to be able to tell the boss where gravity was, or where gravity is. So here we have an idle state, and basically it's just set up with trigger events. So I tagged each area, and the trigger events are for on trigger stay, and when it collides with those tags, it sends an event. When it sends these events, these are transitions, and it goes on to the transition states. And each state here has a global transition. This lets me send a message to another state machine, and these are all basic. So these call the set FSM state on the other state machine to set the states using the same states I used here: G1, G2, G3, G4. There's a script on these that takes the string, and oh, here we go. So you'll see I'm passing, for each one of these states, I passed a string: G2, G1, G4. So in the other state machine, it needs to have a state set up just like this guy, where it has the same letters: G1, G2, G3, G4. That will let the state from this machine arrive in the state for the other PlayMaker state machine. So if I go to the enemy now, the enemy has an idle somewhere. Start. Here we go. Okay, so start. Here's the boss, and he expects to get these events. So when he sees those letters G1, G2, G3, G4, that cues off his sequences for what he's going to do. And so let's say I'm in the G1 zone. G1 is going to go over here to this guy, and basically this is a sequence of events that he can do. And originally we had done timings, so like for 2 seconds go here, 3 seconds go here, shoot here, move here, and that was problematic because you didn't get the same result every time. So instead we set up these little trigger areas, which are more granular, that tell him exactly where to go based on where he is. And then you don't have to have like a serial sequence of PlayMaker events. You can just have more of like that original gravity states, where as he enters these trigger areas, it just causes him to do different things. And since he's isolated to this sequence of states over here, you can control how much he reacts. And so, like if gravity went into some of these other major zones, he's not going to pop out. He won't like leave this sequence unless you explicitly specify that he can, which are these gravity events. So in the gravity, I'm sending these events G1 through 4, and if you wanted to ignore one, you just don't put a transition on your state. accept it, so it would just ignore it. So for example, if I wanted to have the boss ignore when gravity goes down here, when he's in the sequence of events, I would just move this G3, just remove the G3 transition. And then each sequence is basically, okay, so one more thing. So when he gets into the sequence, this is kind of like a gatekeeper to change the boss's overall sequence. So this is saying you are idle, gravity is in this zone. What zone is the boss in? So the boss has these trigger events. So the boss has trigger events just like gravity did, so that you could say have different combinations of where gravity is versus the boss. So if gravity's in this zone and the boss is in another zone, it will redirect what state to go in. So for example, if the gravity's in the B1 area and the boss is in the 4 area, it kicks off this sequence of events. So these T tags are triggered events, and that's really the sequence that says, okay, if the boss guy's in this cube, move till you get about here, and then there's another collision boundary here that says when you're here, shoot up here, and when he crosses through these things and lands here, it says move to this button. When he hits the button, he's finished and he's out of the vent, and then he goes back to the idle state, and then it goes back to the state machine where it's like, okay, where is gravity, where is the boss? Well, gravity's in G3, the boss, so here we go, so we go back to idle, it would fire off a G3 event. Okay, so gravity's in G3, goes down to G3, where's the boss? Oh, the boss is in 4, so then it goes from 4 down to this sequence of events, and then the boss would react differently. So this button turns on these top burners, and gravity would run to the other side to go back to the boss 1 area. And so yeah, PlayMaker is super awesome. Here, I'll show you the states for the boss now as I play, and you can see it doing crazy things. Okay, so here's my initial start. I guess I need to be able to zoom out farther. It's not enough room to keep things uncluttered. Okay, so here we go. Unpause. Here, let me start over. I might have paused it in the middle of something. Okay, so I'm in the idle state. The idle state keeps pinging back and forth here because it says, okay, what state is gravity in? And then it knows the boss is in this area. And oh, I went into G3, so it started the G3 sequence. Okay, jump up, oh, too late, I got burned. Alright, the boss finished his sequence, he's going back to the 1 area. So here he goes, he's coming back. To time this just right. There we go. Run! Okay, if I try to go back and beat him to the area. Oh, he changed his mind. He's going back. Oh, I'm gonna put the got myself. Alright, running back. See if I can get around him. Oh, I ran into the boss guy. Died. Oh, try and hit the button to get him, but too late. So you can see you can set up some complex and challenging behaviors if you do this more trigger-driven thing versus doing a bunch of like weights and that kind of thing. This is all set up with move here, aim here, go here, and it's all about triggers and collision boundaries and tags. So triggers and tags and sphere colliders and box colliders. And I am talking tags versus. So here's the tag. So it's a tag versus like a layer. And if you look at your project settings for tags, tags is the upper area. So you have the layers below, and then the tags above. And I think, I haven't run into the end yet, but I think tags are unlimited versus layers being stuck at 32 or 31. Alright, cool. Well, PlayMaker is awesome. Vote for us on Steam. This is Scrabby. Thanks a lot.